Good evening. I want to welcome you to Unchained, a special online event that's being streamed live that's designed to bring hope and healing from addiction. No matter who you are, it's likely that you've experienced addiction or you know someone who has. And this series is designed to bring hope to those who are experiencing that in their lives. My name is Nate Dubbs. I'm a pastor at College Dale Community Church, and I'm excited to be your host for this 10-part online series. Each night at 7:15 Eastern Time, this event will be broadcasted live streamed, and we're so excited for you to be able to join on with us this evening. Typically what will happen is we'll have a live interview taking place with someone in our community here in Chattanooga or Ottawa in the area who's experienced freedom from addiction. Their stories are going to help provide some powerful incentives and some powerful stories about how we can have hope ourselves. So we'll typically have a live interview with someone, and then after that, each night we're going to have a teaching with our presenter, Pastor Richie Halverson, who has his own powerful story. You'll get to hear a little bit about that in just a few moments. But the heart behind what we're doing is we want to try to see our community continue to find freedom. And so we're so glad that you're able to join on with us this evening. In fact, if you're on right now, if you'd like to chat in the comment section where you're watching from, we'd love to see that. Whether it's Chattanooga or Ottawa, Cleveland, Knoxville, Rome, wherever it is, feel free to put that in the chat right now or put that in the comment section, and we'd love to see where you're watching from. This evening, what we're going to do is we're going to take some time to watch a video of Pastor Richie's story. We'll do that in just a moment. But before we do, I just wanted to remind you, if you're seeing this for the first time and haven't registered for this event yet, we want to ask that you register for it. If you register, we'll put the registration link on the screen here. If you register, it's going to allow us to be able to send you some automated responses reminding you of this event taking place each evening. And also, for those who are able to register, at the end of our sessions, which will usually be about an hour long, at the end of every evening, we'll be able to take some time to do a drawing for one person who's registered and who's watching here to be able to receive a copy of Pastor Richie Halverson's book. It's called Darkness Will Not Overcome. I was just reading through this book. It's a powerful story of how he has found freedom. Again, we look forward to hearing him share in just a few moments, but we want to get these books into your hands. So once again, if you haven't had a chance to register, we encourage you to do so. What we're going to do this evening is we're going to take some time, we're going to watch a video of Pastor Richie's own story. And after we watch that video, then we're going to go into a teaching component where he shares a message of hope. So we look forward to sharing these moments with you now. And at this time, we're going to turn to that video of Pastor Richie's testimony.
So it's no looking back for me. It's cool to be in this same spot. Last time I was here, man, I was tore up from the floor up, completely chained to every addiction you can imagine. And it's cool to come back here, to be unchained today. Hey, my name is Richie Halverson. I'm a pastor, speaker, but my real passion is to help people overcome addiction and find a new way of life. It's kind of crazy, but the last time that I was here in this spot, I was jobless. I had just been kicked out of the halfway house where I was living because I had stolen from the halfway house manager because I was in active addiction using. My wife couldn't let me home. She wanted to let me home, but she couldn't let me home because she couldn't trust me there either. No one was safe. You know, that's the problem with addiction, is it infects and affects everybody in the family. It hurts everybody. It affects everybody's peace of mind and their ability to enjoy life. And so I was literally at my bitter end, that bottom you hear them talk about in addiction. I was there. I was living out of my car just down at the bottom of this hill. And I remember the night before I went to treatment for the last time, I came up here. And I remember it was nighttime. It was just absolutely clear, crystal. I could see Nashville just clearly from here. I had come here so many times in my active addiction. I basically came to this threshold where I made the decision, okay, either I'm gonna die or I'm gonna give this thing one more try. Images of my children kept going through my head, images of my wife and my family, images of the person that I used to be. And that's the problem with addiction. We become someone else. I wasn't the same person that I was before. It completely changed me inside and out. We live to use and we use to live. Addiction had reduced me to this point of just mere survival. I didn't care about nutrition and eating. I was 50 pounds underweight, begging for money, doing the very things that I never would have thought in a million years that I would be doing. That's what addiction brought me to that place. And so on that night, I was here. It was actually Christmas Eve that I came up here. I spent that Christmas Eve alone. I remember I started talking to God again for the first time. At this point in my life, I didn't even really know if I believed in God. I'd grown up in a Christian home. My father was a pastor. I grew up in a loving family. You know, addicts don't just come from broken homes or bad areas or bad neighborhoods. Addiction comes from everywhere. It affects everybody. Getting to this point where I came up here, it was the Christmas Eve, and it really just hit home where my addiction had brought me, what it had stolen from me, all the things that were missing in my life, joy, peace of mind. You know, that's what's crazy is I went to the drugs for joy and peace of mind, but that's the irony of addiction. It steals the things that you went to it for in the beginning. And now I didn't have any freedom. I didn't have any joy. I didn't have any peace. I was completely broken. And so sitting here, I started talking to God and started saying, you know what, if you are there, I need your help. I'm completely fed up with this way of life. I can't do this anymore. I'm hurting from the inside out, and I need help. And so I came up here and had a conversation with God for the first time in a long time. I didn't even know if at this point God was even there, or if there really was a God. And so I started praying up here on Lover Circle. Started talking to God for the first time in a very long time. Said, man, if you're there, I need help. I can't do this. I completely felt worthless and hopeless and helpless. But something spoke to my heart and told me, don't give up. Don't give up yet. In recovery, we have a saying, don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle. And so I was at this point and I heard that don't give up, and I made the decision that evening right here in this spot looking over the city to go to treatment one last time. And that's what I did. The very next morning, I got, my parents sent me tickets. I got on a plane and I went to treatment. I grew up in a pretty religious home and had a pretty good family upbringing, and parents who loved me, and two sisters that were never getting into trouble, and then I came along, and in high school I started getting in with kind of the wrong group of people that were kind of going in the wrong direction, and my story is pretty much that generic story. In the beginning, using was fun, it was the party. But then it got bad, and it got to where I was using every day, all the time. Opioids just almost devastated my life, and I couldn't go to enough doctors to get the amount of prescriptions and drugs that I needed. And so I started calling in my own prescriptions, impersonating a doctor and calling them in. And I got away with it for a long time, but you may get away with it for a while, but eventually you're gonna get caught. And eventually I did. I would impersonate the doctor and call in those prescriptions. And one time I was at a pharmacy not far from here and had called in a prescription, and I'm walking in the store to get it, go to the pharmacy, they're on to me. I know they're on to me. I get ready to leave, and as I'm coming out of the store, about 5 squad cars pull up in front of the store, and they arrest me there on the spot. Now, you would have thought that was enough to kind of wake me up from this, but the reality is it takes more than that. It took me getting arrested about 4 or 5 more times. It took 4 or 5 more felonies. It took 4 more times in jail before I was even at that breaking point. Called my parents, was expecting them to bail me out of jail, but instead of them bailing me out, I got a little note the guard gave me from my mom, and she said, "Richie, we're not bailing you out anymore. We're done. And we love you. We're praying for you, but we're not doing this anymore." And that was the moment when I started realizing I had to make a change. That was when reality started hitting in. That was the first step towards me hitting my bottom. So don't enable people. Love them from a distance. Give them that tough love, all right? But don't enable them. In recovery, we call it, you can love your family to death. We have seen addicts die because their family just could not get out of their way. They kept throwing money and enabling bad behavior. Don't do that. Have boundaries, but always be there so that when they're ready to get help, you're ready there to help them from a distance. You're not going to do it for them, but you're going to help them. In the Nashville City Courthouse, that I was facing 4 pending felony charges for prescription fraud. I had 30 days clean, just got done with treatment, had my first court hearing clean, and showed up. I had missed my court while I was in treatment, so there was a warrant for my arrest for failure to appear. They immediately arrested me, took me into custody, and I thought I was going to be going away for a very long time. But by this time in my life, I had surrendered to a power greater than myself, and I was willing and ready to deal with the wreckage of my past, and I was ready for healing. I was ready for restitution. I was ready to deal with the things that I had done and face up to it. It felt so much better going into court clean than using. And so when I went before the judge, they had me drug test. I was clean. I had just finished treatment. That was good. And unbelievably, that day, I was able to leave. That the conclusion, if I remain clean, I don't get trouble again, they were going to expunge all 4 of these felony charges off my record. And so, man, I had been told multiple times that I was going to have to do some serious time, but God had other plans. And so, man, I left that day from the courthouse, and the air smelled a little sweeter. The sun, man, it shined a little brighter. And I still remember the way it felt to that day of one of the benefits of living a life clean and in the process of recovery. And so I did exactly that, man. I did everything that they told me to do. If they had told me to stand on my head, I would have stand on my head, because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so I started going to meetings. I started working the steps. I got a sponsor. I got someone who knew how to live clean. I didn't know how to live clean. I knew how to get high. I knew how to con and manipulate and steal, but I didn't know how to live successfully clean. And so I got a sponsor who did, and I started listening to him. They told me to take the cotton out of my ears and shove it in my mouth, to do more listening than talking. And that's what I started doing. And day by day, each day, I started living a cleaner, freer, happier life. My marriage was holding on by a thread. But my wife, she let me come back home. We reconciled our relationship. It took time. Trust that was damaged over years doesn't heal overnight. So it took time for me to heal that relationship. And you know what? Sometimes a lot of people in recovery Their marriage doesn't heal. Unfortunately, lots of times the relationship doesn't last. I was fortunate that my relationship did. Now, my wife and I, we've been married for 22 years.
So what a powerful story to be able to hear not only of the difficult times, but also that path, that road to finding that freedom, of having a second chance. We look forward to hearing more from Richie. And at this time, we want to turn our attention to the teaching that he has for us tonight that can help us find hope and healing as well. We're going to turn to Richie now.
Welcome to Unchained, Hope and Healing from Addiction. My name is Richie Halverson. I'm a pastor, speaker, but my real passion and focus is helping people overcome addiction and find a new way of life. I struggled with opioid addiction for years. It almost took everything from me, my family. I couldn't hold a job. I couldn't go more than a few hours without using. Jails, institutions, and the next thing for me was death. But friends, when I finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I asked for help, and I began working a program of recovery, man, the chains that once held me back began breaking. And that's what this series is all about, living a life unchained. This series is a 10-part series. Each session will look at different aspects of addiction, examining the problem, but more importantly, getting into the solution. In order to have a life unchained, we have to start breaking through the chains that keep holding us back. Whether it's drugs or it's behavior, you name it. There is something that's holding you back from the life that you want to live. Every session we will have an interview, a different person who has struggled with a different addiction. But again, what we used is not near as important as why we were using them. I want to encourage, this series is for everyone and anyone who wants to live a fuller and freer life. The key is, guys, we're in this together. We are not alone. Everyone struggles. Everyone has problems. And maybe you don't identify as an addict. That's okay. But maybe you've been hurt. You have a child that's an addict. You have a spouse that's an addict. I guarantee everybody watching right now has been hurt by addiction in one way or another. Maybe it's not a habit, but it's a hang-up, or it's a hurt that you experienced in your life. This series is for everyone, regardless of religious background or your belief system or your worldview. Now, I am a Christian pastor, and we are going to be looking at a lot of stories from the Bible and a lot of Scripture. But regardless of your belief, all of these truths and these principles are going to be universally applicable. You're welcome. Even if you're not where maybe I am or someone else is in your belief, find the things that you identify with, and I promise you'll experience more freedom from the things that are holding you back in life. In John 8:36, it says, "If the Son sets you free, you are truly free." And it wasn't until Jesus set me free that I was really free. In John 10:10, it says, "I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." That's what Jesus wants for you right now. In Luke 4:18, we read, "Jesus was sent to proclaim liberty to the captives, to recover the sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed." Wherever Christ went, people were set free. In Mark, the 5th chapter, Jesus gets out of a boat, and he is met by someone who is possessed. This series, Unchained, is for people who are possessed by life. You see, some of us may not be possessed by demons, but we are possessed by worry. We're possessed by stress. Some of us are possessed by our past or our poor choices. Some of us are possessed by bill collectors and bad debt. Some of us are possessed by bad marriages, where we're just constantly fighting and going back and forth. Maybe you are possessed by bad health or a bad habit or a bad and painful experience. And you know what? Don't think that because you're not an addict or you don't think you struggle with addiction that you're not possessed by anything. Don't think that because you go to church or are very religious that you don't have any demons in your life. Because, as I was reading in the scriptures, in Mark, the very first miracle that Mark records is Jesus casting a demon out of someone at church. Some of the most messed up, chained up, possessed people I have ever met, and I'm a pastor so I can say this, have been very religious people. You see, for some of us, it may not be substance abuse, but it's workaholism. That's your demon. For some of us, it isn't workaholism, but it's sexual attention, sexual gratification. Maybe it's getting attention or making heads turn. Even religion can be a source of addiction. But friends, regardless of what you're chained to or how bad your condition is, Christ can heal you. This guy was in pretty bad shape. The guy is possessed, naked. He's living in a graveyard. Notice Mark 5:3. It says that he had often been bound with shackles, chains, but he wrenched the chains apart and he broke the shackles. So check this out. The demons gave this guy some strength. Okay, so the demons gave him something, but it came at a price. You see, the drugs give you something, but it comes at a price. Anger and resentment, it gives you something at the beginning. It gives you a rush of endorphins. It fills you with maybe anger. It may give you something at first, but it always takes more than it gives. Denial works at first, but in the end, it takes more than it gives. In Mark 5:4, it says that no one was strong enough to subdue this guy and his demons. You see, the thing about addiction is we are not strong enough. He wasn't strong enough to resist the demons. We're not strong enough to stop ours. I wasn't strong enough to stop using. My family wasn't strong enough to get me to stop using. You're not strong enough. Some of us aren't strong enough to stop spending, right? You're not strong enough to stop gambling. No one is strong enough to subdue our demons. But the good news is there is someone who is strong enough. In Mark 5:9, Jesus asked him, "What's your name?" And he said to him, "My name is Legion, because there are many of us." You see, many of us don't have just a few problems. We have many problems. Most of us have not just a few regrets, we have many regrets. We have many credit card bills. We have many problems. We have many mistakes. We have many sins. But Romans 5:20 says that where sin increases, grace increases more. Hell is no match for the power that is accessible to you today. I find it interesting that this guy who is possessed, the Bible never records his name. And because the Bible never records the guy's name, we just call him demoniac. Think about it. We know him by his demons. And we tend to do that to other people, don't we? We know someone as, she's the drug addict, right? She's a liar, right? He's an adulterer. He's got a terrible temper. But notice how Jesus is different. Jesus looks past the demons all the way to the person. Jesus sees beyond our past all the way to our potential. The demoniac wasn't always like this. We know this because in Mark 5:19, Jesus says, "Go home to your people." So apparently, he had a home. He had people in his life. And so the question, and as I'm reading this, I thought, well, how did he end up like this? Maybe you're wondering, how in the world did I ever end up in this place? Maybe some couples are thinking, how did our marriage end up in this place? How did my son and my daughter end up in this place? You see, no child says, you know what, when I grow up, I want to be a drug addict. No one says, you know what, when I grow up, I want to declare bankruptcy. It happens little by little, slowly over time. Our life is just a accumulation of our choices. It happens little by little, slowly over time. The chain of alcoholism first started with one drink. The chain of pornography, it started with one look. You know, cheating doesn't begin in the act of infidelity. It begins with a thought. It begins with an idea. And then you act out on it, and now you are chained with regret. In Mark 5:5, it says, the night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones. He's powerless over his demons. Mark 5:7, crying out with a loud voice, he said, what have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? So check it out. The demons have started speaking for this man. They're the ones calling the shots. They're the ones telling him how it is. I wonder, is your fear telling you what to do? Is your past dictating your future? Are the drugs telling you when to get up in the morning and when to go to bed? You see, we become powerless over our addiction and our lives become unmanageable. And so what do? Well, what did this possessed guy do? In Mark 5:6, it says that when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and he fell down before him. You see, if you want to live a life unchained, we're gonna have to recognize that we need help. We need someone stronger in us than just us to step in and help us with our demons. This possessed man, he falls at Jesus' feet. The Greek word for fell means to lay prostrate. It's a word that's associated with prayer and worship. Now, a lot of people in the world don't like to admit, but everyone worships something, all right? Regardless of whether you believe in God or you go to church or you do anything, regardless, everybody worships something. You know, what's your go-to? What gets your blood pumping? What gets you up and going in the morning? Maybe it's not a drug, but it's your career. Maybe it's your academic achievement. Maybe it's in your popularity. Everybody worships something. And that's really the essence of what addiction is. Addiction is the result of looking for purpose and fulfillment and identity in something that cannot give it. Addiction is an identity crisis because there's only one person that can really fill your life and give it the fullest meaning that you would like to experience in life. In recovery, there's a saying that with drugs, 1 was too many and 1,000 was never enough. And you can really insert that with any addiction or problem. Because I've noticed that no matter how much money you make, it's never enough. Have you noticed that? No matter how many likes you get on your social media post, if you're going to that for identity and purpose, it's not enough. No matter how in shape you get at the gym, you're always looking in the mirror and you're looking at the other people and you're like, man, I'm not seeing enough. No matter how good or morally, religiously you are, it's never enough. There is always someone smarter, faster, younger, thinner, fitter, better, richer. Worshiping the wrong thing chains us. If you worship your job, you're always chained to who's getting the promotion. If you worship your wealth, you're always chained to what's happening at Wall Street. If you worship popularity, you're always chained to what people think about you. You're always trying to please people, and that's going to wear you out. And what happens is just like with this demoniac, whatever you worship, it starts telling you how to live. It starts telling you what to do. And before long, friends, just like this guy, you're going to be living in a graveyard. But if you can do what this demoniac did, go to someone who's bigger, smarter, more powerful than you, and you get your identity from him, man, Jesus will start doing to your demons what he did to this guy's demons. He casted them out and he drowned them in the sea. In Micah 7:19, it says, God will trample our sins under his feet and throw them into the depths of the ocean. According to Mark 5:15, when people came to Jesus and observed the man who had been demon-possessed sitting down, clothed and in his right mind, the very man who had the legion, it says that they became frightened. Most people don't want their demons casted out. You know, we live in a world where people are possessed by problems, and what's sad is most people would choose an insanity that they're used to rather than a freedom they're not used to. You see, these people were frightened because they don't want Jesus to cast their demons out. Some of us have had demons so long we can't imagine what life would be without them. And that's why in verse 17 they beg for Jesus to leave. Friends, living unchained is simple, but it's not easy. Don't confuse simple with easy. Recovery is for people who want it and not necessarily need it. You can't allow what people think to stop you doing what it is that you need to be doing. You see, people can't help you. People can't give you, people don't have the power to unchain you. What people think about you will not transform you. In Mark 5:6, when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran. You see, he knows that he needs something. He knows he needs to do something different. You see, we got to go to God like we know we need him. And we've got to just give him our problems. And when we give God our problems, he gives us his power. No one can do, will do, or has done for you what Christ has done for you. In Isaiah 53:5, it says that he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. This guy was an outcast, naked and abandoned. Soon Jesus will be cast out, and he was naked and abandoned on the cross. This man was torn apart by demons. Jesus will be torn apart by his own people in Romans. Just as this man's flesh was cut up with sharp stones, very soon Jesus' flesh will be cut up by sharp stones at the end of a Roman whip. Jesus, this guy was demon-possessed. Jesus was accused of demon possession, and he was killed so that our demons will no longer possess our lives. Jesus went into a grave so that you can come out of the grave. So are you chained to something today? Are you chained to a circumstance or a problem? Maybe you're chained to a regret or a fear, shame, guilt. Maybe you're chained to a resentment, chained to an addiction, chained to the worry of a person in your life who struggles with addiction. Maybe you think, you know what, I don't have a problem. I can control it. No, you can't. In fact, it's controlling you. You see, whatever's holding you back, we've got to lay it at the feet of Jesus. I lived in a graveyard long enough. I was in active addiction for many years, and it almost ended me up in a graveyard. Some of us watching right now have lived in a graveyard long enough. It's time to come out. In this series, we're going to explore so many tools that can help you live a life unchained. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us for that message. And Richie, thank you for sharing that with us. Just a powerful, powerful example of what Christ can do to the demons in our life. I love the line that you said about how one was not enough, but 1,000 was too much. Thank you for sharing those inspiring words for us. There's hope. There's hope for all of us here tonight that are watching, or if you're watching later, there's hope from addiction. And we hope that you'll continue to join us. At this time in our program, we're going to get ready to do our drawing for a signed copy of Richie's book, The Darkness Will Not Overcome. We want to remind you one more time, if you're just jumping in on this right now, to sign up. We'll put the registration link up there again. Sign up for this event so that you can be reminded about when it's taking place and be entered for these drawings here tonight. So for this evening, our winner tonight is Shelly Dietrich. Shelly, thanks so much for hopping on. Thanks for your comments, and we'll make sure that this book gets to you. We'll contact you later and make sure that you get a copy of this book. Thanks for being here this evening. Hey, if you guys appreciate what you're seeing here, we want to encourage you to like this, to share it with others, help pull more people into the goodness that we can experience here, the freedom that we can experience. We'll be back here for the next 9 nights at 7:15 Eastern Time. Tomorrow we'll be interviewing someone in our community who's free from the addiction of alcohol and drugs, and he's been free from that for many decades now. You're not going to want to miss his story tomorrow evening, as well as the next part in Pastor Richie's teaching. So we thank you so much for joining in with us tonight. Again, we look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Until then, be safe, and we wish you well as you continue this journey living a free life. Take care.